Sophie Cunningham made $100,000 last season. $100,000! The woman who helped create Tres Leches, the trio that turned Indiana into the most talked-about franchise in the WNBA, tore her MCL protecting a teammate, shot 43% from three on a career-best year, and she made less than some people's starting salary. Now she's a free agent, unrestricted, no strings attached, and every single team in the WNBA has cap space to offer her a raise. Herb Simon has 5 days to keep her, and if you've watched this channel, you already know how this man handles deadlines. Let's rewind, because this story starts with a trade that Fever fans forget cost them real assets. Indiana didn't just stumble into Sophie Cunningham, they traded NaLyssa Smith, a 2025 first-round pick, and a 2027 third-round pick in a 4-team deal to get her from Phoenix. That's draft capital. That's future flexibility. They spent it, specifically to put a shooter and an enforcer next to Caitlin Clark. After 6 seasons with the Mercury, Cunningham came to Indianapolis with something to prove. And it worked, immediately. Cunningham averaged 8.6 points, 3.5 rebounds, a steal per game. She shot nearly 47% from the field and 43% from three, both career highs. She started 13 games at Gainbridge Fieldhouse and on the road. She won the Commissioner's Cup, dropping 13 points and 7 boards off the bench in the championship game. But the stats only tell half the story. Sophie Cunningham became Caitlin Clark's enforcer, and that's not just a nickname fans made up. It's a role she owned. Remember that Connecticut game? When Clark got poked in the eye, Cunningham was the one who stepped up. That moment made national news. That moment is the reason Ring, the home security company Sky, signed her to an endorsement deal. They literally marketed her as a protector. That's how clearly she defined the role. And off the court, Cunningham didn't just play for Indiana. She sold Indiana. She launched Show Me Something, a podcast on Colin Cowherd's The Volume Network, with her high school best friend West Wilson from Bravo's Summer House. She landed a Marriott Bonvoy partnership for a March Madness limited series. She signed with Arby's. She grew to 1.6 million followers on TikTok, 1.1 million on Instagram. For a player earning $100,000 a year, she was generating the kind of attention most franchises can't buy. And then, August 17th, Connecticut again. Cunningham slides down the baseline to help on defense, collides with Bria Hartley, and goes down. Torn MCL right knee. Season over. She was the third Fever player to suffer a season-ending injury. Clark was already out with a groin injury. Sydney Colson, torn ACL. Ari McDonald, broken foot. And now, Cunningham. The team that was supposed to contend was falling apart. And Cunningham sat on the bench with a towel over her head. Not because she was done caring, but because she couldn't stop. Here's what people forget about that game. The Fever were down 21 points when Cunningham went down. 21, and the team, her teammates, came all the way back and won in overtime. Fever head coach Stephanie White called it a turning point. The team pointed to that moment for the rest of the season. Cunningham's injury didn't end their fight. It started it. She stayed. Through the playoffs, through the semifinal run against Vegas. She was in the huddles. She was in the locker room. She was on the bench every single game, coaching, encouraging, pouring confidence into teammates who were running on fumes. Stephanie White said it herself. Every single person on this roster impacts winning. Cunningham proved that from a seat she never wanted to be in. She lost 6% of her muscle mass during recovery. She couldn't move some days. She said on her podcast that there were rehab sessions where she wanted to kick everyone in the face, but she kept showing up. Her recovery? Ahead of schedule. By November, 3 months after surgery, her doctors were impressed. She showed up courtside at Pacers games with Tyrese Halliburton's fiancée. She caddied for Caitlin Clark at the Annika Pro-Am alongside Lexi Hull. She hosted her podcast from Indianapolis during the men's Final Four at Marriott's invitation. She did everything a franchise ambassador does, except get paid like one. Because here's the part that should make every Fever fan furious. Sophie Cunningham's salary last season? $100,000. Under the new CBA, the one the WNBPA negotiated minimum salaries above $270,000. That number nearly triples just to hit the floor. And she's not looking for a minimum deal. She's earned a real contract. She said it herself. She wants to get paid. And she should, because the market is about to give her options Indiana can't control. The Fever can start negotiating with Cunningham on Wednesday. Contracts can officially be signed on Saturday. Training camp opens April 19th. That is the tightest free agency window in WNBA history, a process that normally takes months, crammed into days. And Sophie Cunningham is one of the most sought-after role players on the entire market. Think about what she brings. A career-high three-point shooter who hit 43% from deep, a physical defender who doesn't back down from anyone, a locker room leader with playoff experience, a media personality with nearly 3 million followers across platforms and a podcast on a major network, a proven culture changer who walked into a franchise that hadn't been relevant in years and helped make it appointment viewing. She's 29 years old, entering her prime. Every general manager in the league sees that profile and picks up the phone. Meanwhile, what are the Fever working with? $7 million cap, 3 players under contract, Clark, Boston, and Timpson, eating about $1.4 million. That leaves $5.6 million. Sounds like plenty, until you remember they also need Kelsey Mitchell. Core Mitchell at the Supermax, and that's $1.4 million gone. Then Hull, restricted free agent, probably another $400,000. Suddenly you're down to about $3.8 million for Cunningham, plus 6 or 7 more players to fill a 12-person roster. If Simon lowballs her, if he treats her like a $100,000 player again, she walks. It's that simple. She has no restrictions, no team matching rights, no core designation tying her down. She is completely free to sign wherever she wants, and multiple teams will offer her more than whatever Simon puts on the table if he's not serious. And here's the thing, Cunningham has options beyond basketball too. Her podcast is growing, her endorsement portfolio is expanding. She doesn't need Indiana. The question is whether Indiana needs her, and the answer is obvious. And here's what makes this personal. The Fever traded real assets to get Cunningham. She delivered immediately. She got hurt doing her job, protecting a teammate on defense. She rehabbed ahead of schedule. She stayed engaged through a playoff run she couldn't play in. She built the Tres Leches brand with Clark and Hull that turned this franchise into a cultural phenomenon. The Fever's valuation didn't jump from under $90 million to $370 million because of Herb Simon's business acumen. It jumped because players like Sophie Cunningham made people care. And now, the man who abandoned her before the Toronto Tempo and Portland Fire expansion draft, the man who left her unprotected while the entire league watched, that same man has 5 days to prove he actually values her. Since Tamika Catchings won the 2012 championship, no Indiana player has meant more to the culture of this franchise than what Sophie Cunningham built in a single season. Not the stats, the identity, the toughness, the loyalty, the fire. 5 days, Wednesday to Saturday. That's the negotiation window. That's how long Herb Simon has to save Sophie Cunningham, or watch her walk out the door wearing someone else's jersey. Because if Cunningham leaves Indiana, it won't be because she wanted to go. It'll be because Herb Simon, for the second time in 2 months, refused to protect her.